first step is to download your pattern. Select your file according to your paper format and the size you wish to make. Print your pattern at 100% scale. There is a scale test included on the first page of the pattern to ensure you have printed correctly. Trim the borders along the thin black outside line and stick together using clear sticky tape. There is a layout included in the instruction guide to ensure that you have stuck all the pages together correctly. Next, cut around each individual pattern piece. Place your pattern pieces onto the fabric and cut according to the individual directions on each pattern piece. There is a cutting layout included in the instructions to help you lay up all the pattern pieces onto the fabric. You'll also notice in this video that I have fused all of my pattern pieces as my fabric is quite sheer. This isn't necessary, you can just fuse the pieces that are marked on the pattern. Place the collar pieces on top of one another with the right sides together. Stitch around the outer straight edge and the two short edges using a 6mm or 1/4 inch seam allowance. Just leave the curved edge that has the notches unstitched for now. Clip the corners and turn the collar through to the right side. Press sharply all the way around the edges with the iron. Then set the collar aside for now. Pin the back pieces together along the centre back edge. Stitch together using a 1cm or 3/8 inch seam allowance and overlock the seam edge. Additionally, you can press the seam allowance down towards one side and add a row of top stitching along the centre back edge. This is optional. Open out the back pieces and press the centre back seam well. Place the front pieces on top of the back piece with the right sides touching one another. Match up along the shoulder seam and the side seams. Pin together and stitch using a 1cm or 3/8 inch seam allowance. Overlock the shoulder seam and the side seams. You can also overlock the lowest hem edge while you're here at the overlocker. Pin the collar in place along the neck edge. Position the collar in between the notches on the front neckline. Take your time to pin in the collar correctly, as it may not seem like it will fit in at first due to the curves. Stitch in place using a 1/4 inch or 6mm seam allowance. Place the front facing pieces on top of the back facing piece with the right sides together. Pin along the shoulder seams and stitch together using a 1cm or 3/8 inch seam allowance. Overlock around the outer edge of the facing. Then, turn the overlock under to the wrong side and press it with the iron. Top stitch along the outer edge to secure it in place. Place the facing pieces on top of the main garment with the right sides together. Pin along the vertical edge and along the top neck edge. Stitch all the way along the outer edge using a 6mm or 1/4 inch seam allowance. You will need to ensure you also stitch along the lowest short edge of the front facing, as you can see I'm doing here. Clip the top corners and turn the facing so that the garment is now facing the right way out. Press along the facing edge with the iron. Then turn the hem edge up by 4 cm or 1.5 inches. Press well, pin in place and top stitch. Fold the sleeve piece in half with the right sides touching one another, matching along the inner seam of the sleeve. Stitch together using a 1 cm or 3/8 inch seam allowance. Overlock the seam and then repeat for the other sleeve so that now you have a pair of sleeves. Next, overlock the hem edge of both of the sleeves. Turn the hem edge of the sleeve upwards by 5 cm or 2 inches. Pin in place and then top stitch to secure. You can either leave the sleeve hem as it is or create a faux cuff. To create the faux cuff, pinch the sleeve hem at 1.2 cm or 1/2 inch below the top stitching. Pull the fabric upwards to cover the top stitching. Continue this all the way around the sleeve hem to create the cuff. Press well and tack the cuff in place at the inner seam and the outer edge using 3 to 4 small machine stitches. Pin the sleeve into the armhole. Place the sleeve inside the armhole with the right sides touching one another. Take extra care here to match all of the notches along the armhole and around the sleeve curve. This will ensure your sleeve is correctly positioned. Stitch using a 1 cm or 3/8 inch seam allowance and then overlock around the seam. Fold the belt piece in half horizontally. Stitch along the outer edges using a 6 mm or 1/4 inch seam allowance. Leave a 5 cm or 2 inch opening to turn the belt through. Pull the belt through to the right side and press around the edges. Tuck in the raw edge of the belt opening and use the sewing machine to top stitch the opening closed. Use the pattern to mark on the correct placement of the buttons and buttonholes. Change your machine foot to the buttonhole foot and follow your machine setting to create 3 buttonholes. The buttonholes should be stitched on the right hand side of the garment. Use your seam ripper or snips to carefully cut open your buttonhole. Then, use the pattern to mark the correct placement of the buttons. Use a hand sewing needle to stitch the buttons in place. The buttons should be stitched on the left hand side of the garment. It's time to press your garment. You'll also have to press in the fold line along the collar and lapel.